You know Graybar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Graybar does that.
Started to record an intro segment to this week's episode, number 192 of the Show Before the Show podcast. It was terrible. And then Bobby Bradley saved us. The 7th-ranked prospect in the Cleveland organization texted and said, hey, I'm ready to record my interview now. So we got to scrap the bad intro. Here's the good intro. You guys only get the good content. Thank Bobby Bradley. You can tweet at him and thank him for saving us today.
Yeah, so welcome into the good place.
Welcome into the good edition of the Show Before the Show podcast this week. No bad stuff here.
No. One thing we'll tease about Bobby Bradley's interview is that he talks about improving his defense, and we can now say with experience that he did save us.
He did.
He saved us from making some grave errors. So we thank him for that.
Yeah, he's He's a dude who has the ability to pick you up. If you're a pitcher, you're struggling, and you've got Bobby Bradley behind you, now you know he's there. He's there for you.
Hopefully he's there for you in the way he was there for us.
Hey, welcome into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, episode number 192. We're talking all things minor league baseball. And as you may have guessed, 7th-ranked Cleveland prospect Bobby Bradley joins the show coming up in a little bit. He's already in Arizona getting set for spring training coming up here in a month and a half for position players. And the first base prospect in that system will join us here in a short time. But before we get to that, we get to 3 strikes. We open up every episode talking about 3 burning topics in minor league baseball. And when we kick things off with one that's not just minor league baseball, but Major League Baseball and college football and the National Football League. And if you're sick and tired of hearing about Kyler Murray, you can fast forward through the next few minutes of this show. Kyler Murray, the Heisman Trophy winning University of Oklahoma quarterback / outfielder, is set to enter the NFL draft after becoming a first-round draft selection in the Major League Baseball first-year player draft last year. Kyler Murray has declared his intention to enter the NFL draft. He is already the 4th-ranked prospect in the Oakland Athletics system. Has yet to play a professional game. I would think the spring training appearance is now somewhat up in the air. We're somewhat light on details with how exactly this is going to transpire with Kyler Murray. We know Major League Baseball has given Oakland the go-ahead to throw a lot more guaranteed money at Kyler Murray than the most recent CBA has generally allowed for draft prospects. We haven't seen anything really since Steven Strasburg approaching what Kyler Murray could get in guaranteed Major League contract money before even playing a professional game. These are extraordinary circumstances, and it's kind of a weird turf war. It's kind of a weird, almost culture war that is beginning to brew around Kyler Murray between Major League Baseball and the National Football League. And Sam, just give me your thoughts on where this is right now and where it's headed, because I'm not sure. Well, I shouldn't say I'm not sure. We haven't ever really seen anything like this. There's never been a player taken in the first round in both drafts. There have been players taken in the first round in one and the second round in another. There's never been a first rounder in both the MLB draft and the NFL draft. This is a fascinating situation, and Kyler Murray is going to make a ton of money from somebody, but there is a very difficult decision or series of decisions coming up.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is that it's a good time to be Kyler Murray, and which I think we should all celebrate first and foremost. The guy did enough to show the Oakland Athletics that he was worth, a top 10 pick in the Major League Baseball draft. He's certainly athletic enough. Anybody who watched, the Sooners play this fall knows how quick he is, how good he can be with his feet. That translates really well to baseball. He's also done some things in baseball that, made him a first-round pick. I was surprised when he went as high as he did to the A's, at 9th overall. But, the A's obviously saw his set of tools, thought it could really work. They knew what they were getting themselves into. Let's say that from the beginning. the A's, when they picked Kyler Murray, knew that he wanted to go back and play football in the fall. They even agreed, saying like, "Hey, here's this $4.6 million signing bonus. You will be allowed to go and play." The agreement here is that's how it's gonna work out. We're not gonna play you in a minor league game this summer. Go back to Norman, go work out as a football player, and we'll talk in the winter. Meanwhile, guy developed into a Heisman-winning quarterback. That was not the scenario when he got picked in June and when he negotiated his signing bonus. But the A's knew that was a thing that could have happened, whether it was a 15% possibility or a 5% possibility. I don't think anybody expected him to win the Heisman this year. But when you do that, everybody's going to be talking about you. Everybody's talking about him going into the draft. He checks in at 5'11". I think the Oklahoma lists him at 5'10". So either way, he's short for a quarterback, but he showed enough skills to maybe be a first round pick. Now, this week, he had to decide whether he was going to declare himself eligible for the NFL draft. Had a great tweet about it. I call it a great tweet because it was just so succinct and so it was without fluff. It was just, I declare for the NFL draft. And everybody made Michael Scott jokes about I declare bankruptcy, but it wasn't trying to him to say like, I'm going to become a football player. It's him just saying, this is what I am doing. I am declaring for the NFL draft. What that means right now, we still don't know, because it just means he's keeping his options open. Now he's in the NFL draft. Now he'll find out from evaluators. He'll talk to teams as part of that whole process. Maybe the way things shake out, he's not a first round pick. Maybe teams tell him he's a third round pick. And where this is really going to come to a head is, the A's have invited him to Major League camp. Part of that, like you mentioned, Tyler, is trying to sweeten the pot a little bit into getting him to join baseball. They say, listen, we want you with the big guys right away, not in terms of playing time, but just being around that culture, being in a major league clubhouse. We want that's our signal to you of our expectations for you and our hopes for you, is that we think you should be around the big league guys right away. So he would have to report to Major League Spring Training on February 15th. That being said, the NFL Combine is February 26th. So there's no real way he can do both. The A's are trying to meet with him. Like you say, there's stories about trying to improve his contract a little bit. Normally, Major League Baseball does not allow you to renegotiate with a player before he has played a professional game. They have said, again, according to reports, that they are willing to discard that policy for Kyler Murray if it means he gets to stay in Major League Baseball. So basically what Oakland would do is they would sign him to a major league contract, add a little bit more money. He's still going to the minor leagues. He's not automatically getting on the 25-man roster that way, but he would get on the 40-man roster. He would have, I think, 4 option years instead of 3, because if you sign a deal before you have so much major league experience, they get to add on an option year. So he still wouldn't have to be in the majors for 4 more years at the latest. He would basically still be a regular minor leaguer, just with a little bit more money. And I think a lot of this comes down to, this is the situation that Kyler Murray has created for himself. He has been a good enough baseball player to make this happen. He has been a good enough football player to make this happen. He has options out there. And this is, him declaring for the NFL draft is him exploring those options, which, good for him. There's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. A lot of people have popped up on Twitter saying like, oh, well, he signed a contract. He should, honor that contract. What is he doing? Again, the A's knew what they were getting themselves into. This is not a surprise necessarily. Shouldn't be a surprise, at least to them, that this really athletic guy they were drafting, and because they liked his athleticism, turned out to be very athletic in this other sport, so much so that another sport is looking to draft him as well. So there's a potential for the A's to get some of that money back if he were to decide to enter the NFL drafts, leave baseball behind. They would not get a supplemental draft pick. Normally, when you don't sign your draft pick, you get the same pick. Well, a pick one spot afterwards. We're going to see that this year with the Atlanta Braves, who did not sign Carter Stewart. There was a bit of a grievance that got settled. So the Braves will have an additional first-round pick next year because they did not sign their 2018 pick. Oakland would not have that same opportunity. They get a little bit screwed out of that. I get it. They knew the risk when they were making the pick. This saga is not over by any means just because he declared for the NFL draft. It does not null and void his baseball contract yet. It's still, for all we know, he could still show up for position players reporting, in Arizona, the middle of next month on February 15th. But it's just another landmark in this whole situation. He had to make a decision on the draft. He decided to enter, and now we find out, do teams really think he's a first rounder? Because if they do, he's probably going to play football. I mean, that means, listen, we think you were the premier player on our team going forward for years to come. What does that? We can talk about the health of football versus the health of baseball, and I mean that in a purely medicinal way, almost, of what is better for the body long term. What we would hope he would do. But when there is that much money on the table and that much publicity on the table and that much stardom on the table, it can be really hard to turn down when the other option is, going to Stockton, going to Midland. Not that there's anything wrong with those places, but not being in the limelight right away. I don't think that there's anything wrong with this situation for Kyler Murray. I think it's all good things for him. But we'll be following closely, I've kind of fallen out of favor with the NFL for multiple reasons in the last couple of years. I don't follow the draft like I used to. I will be following this draft very closely to see where people think Murray could go and what ripple effects that has for his chances with the A's.
The larger contextual issues around this are what fascinate me the most. I think Major League Baseball is, towing a thin line if you remove the limitations on the contract negotiations, the money that can be handed out, etc. I feel like agencies are going to look at that and think, well, how can I fight for my guy to get more money? And the fact that this is a special case, that's not going to hold a whole lot of water with a lot of other people that are going to come calling for similar concessions to be made to their guys. Not that, everybody has the same pedigree or the same demand, the ability to negotiate the things that Kyler Murray has, but I think that's really interesting. I also think that there's a lot of kind of machismo going around here in that Major League Baseball and the NFL each want to beat each other for this guy. And for Major League Baseball, there's been a story, it seems like every year for a long time, about how Major League Baseball with African-American athletes, participation has declined, the numbers have declined in Major League Baseball, and to get a talent like Kyler Murray, somebody who could be one of your next big stars in the game, a guy who is young, is really marketable, and is an athlete that you could put as a face of your sport. I think that's something that Major League Baseball would love to have. Not to mention, he comes in already so polished in terms of his media presence, the interviews that he gives. He's an engaging guy. There's a lot to love about Kyler Murray, just as a package, as an athlete that you can get behind, as a fan or as an administrator, a marketer, somebody with Major League Baseball. There's a lot that you like. If you're the NFL, you just feel like you swing the biggest stick no matter what, and you should be able to get all the guys that you want. So it kind of fascinates me that this is turning into such a battle between these two sides. I wonder if Kyler Murray didn't play baseball, are people looking at Kyler Murray as a first-round pick in football, or has this conversation elevated it to the point where NFL front offices just want to win that battle so much? He's a small guy. Kyler Murray would be pretty much the smallest quarterback in the NFL. And how many times have we heard that knock against guys who have gone to the NFL draft? They're never going to survive. Johnny Manziel is probably the one who comes to mind most recently. And Johnny Manziel, guess what? Didn't survive in the NFL. Not necessarily because he got blasted because he was a small quarterback, but that certainly didn't help. So the larger battle around this picture is what's really fascinating to me about Kyler Murray. But yeah, I think just approaching it from the standpoint of a sports fan, I want Kyler Murray to do whatever is going to provide Kyler Murray with the most money and the best future for his family. And if that's picking football, if that's picking baseball, whatever it is, if you're an athlete, you only get a chance to make this money once. And whatever you choose and whatever route you go, if it's going to set up your kids and your grandkids and your parents, and you're going to, do some things like guys we've had on the podcast in recent weeks who have paid off their parents' debts and have done really cool things for their friends and family. Whatever you're going to get, if you're Kyler Murray, if it's big first-round money from the NFL or from Major League Baseball, take the thing that's going to give you the best life. And I think as human beings, we should all cheer for that. Now, maybe if I'm an A's fan, I don't feel that way. But I think Kyler Murray's got a pretty cool problem coming up ahead of him, and it's a problem that 99.9% of people would be thrilled to have. And I'm excited to see which way he goes. And selfishly, I would love to see what he can do on a baseball field, but he's a hell of an exciting player on the football field as well. And to see if that skill set would translate to the NFL or how it would translate to the NFL as the pro game becomes more and more like the college game at the NFL level, I think it'd be kind of neat to see that too. So if you're a sports fan, guys like this don't come along very often. We haven't really seen this in a long time. Even some of the guys who have quote-unquote done it in recent years, Jameis Winston was a Major League draft selection. Russell Wilson played in the minor leagues for a couple of seasons in the Rockies organization before going to the NFL. Those guys didn't have the ceiling that Kyler Murray does, being a first-round draft selection in the Major League Baseball first-year player draft. So I don't know. It's going to be cool to see whichever way he goes, what he's able to make of this. And my hope is that if he chooses one route and it doesn't go well, I hope he picks up the other route and succeeds in that one. Got to be kind of cool. If you decide to go to the NFL and you get a couple years in and banged up and you're taking a back seat to somebody, come play pro ball, man. Hayes will take you back, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that we should also note is that even if he does choose football, the A's still have his
They will still have
baseball
his rights.
Right. So even Russell Wilson is technically a Yankee now, which has been one of my favorite.
He's been traded or Rule 5 a handful of times now.
Yeah, the Rangers got him at one point, and then the Yankees got him, and all this funny stuff. And he basically suits up for a day.
He's going back to spring training this year.
Oh yeah, no, he suits up for a day, takes some hacks, makes a couple good photo ops, gives a speech in the locker room, all that kind of stuff. I don't think Kyler Murray needs to do that, but. Like you said, this is a situation he's created for himself. It's really, really difficult. And even looking back at other guys like, Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders, not that I would necessarily make that comp right away because we don't know what he's going to be like at a professional in either sport, really. It's all projection at this point. But those guys weren't quarterbacks, which is the number one guy on the field for every football team. Kyler Murray is good enough to do that and also be a center fielder who, as we know, is one of the most important jobs on the baseball diamond. Really difficult to do either one, and the fact that he can do both is just a testament to him. So would not be surprised if he gives one a chance and it doesn't work and he goes off and tries to do the other so long as he's still healthy and isn't quitting one sport because of the injuries. But I mean, you mentioned at the beginning, if you're sick of this now, it's not going away. It's not going to go away once the NFL draft happens. It probably won't go away for a couple of years until we solidly know which path is the best for him. And
Oklahoma gets Jalen Hurts.
We'll save that.
Must
for
be rough.
Yeah,
we'll save that for our the show before the college football playoff podcast. We don't have one of those. Strike 2 this week. We'll move along. American League Central projections. Last week we talked NL East, AL East. AL Central projections are here. We will have an AL Central prospect coming up on the show here in just a little bit. Give us a rundown.
Yeah, so this one was pretty easy in terms of who am I going to focus on from the AL Central when you're talking about rookies for the 2019 season. As somebody added me a couple weeks ago when we did the AL East, I said Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the runaway AL Rookie of the Year candidate right now. Everybody expects him to win based on not only this projection series, but also just what we know about him as a prospect. And somebody chimed in and said, well, how can you say that when Eloy is right there? A, I was writing about the AL East, but B, there is a sizable gulf there, but still between Vlad Jr. and Eloy is like Eloy and the rest of the field when it comes to American League rookies for 2019. He might be solidly second place, but it is not really close behind him either. What I really like about Eloy and what this projection series talks about is he is elite when it comes to both hitting for average and hitting for power. When I looked at Steamer 600, which, as we say every week when we're talking about this, Steamer 600 takes 600 plate appearances for all position players, excluding catchers. So everybody's getting a full season of at-bats and plate appearances in the major leagues. Everybody's on the same plane. How would they do over those 600 plate appearances? Eloy Jimenez ranks in the top 5 amongst rookies for 2019 in terms of both average and home runs. Steamer thinks Eloy would be a 295 hitter right away in the major leagues right now, which is certainly saying something. That would be third, according to rookie projections, behind Vlad Jr., who would hit 306, and Jonathan Daza, a Rockies prospect. So there's a little bit of Coors Field baked into that.
Coors.
Yeah, I was waiting for that sound effect to come in. That's just a board you have, right? That's not even you saying anymore. It's
this is like a morning sports talk radio show. I just have a board of drops.
Right. So he's behind only those two in terms of rookies for 2019. He's ahead of Garrett Hampson, who also plays or would play at Coors Field next year, and Williams Estudio, who is one of our favorite prospects. Guy hits everything he sees, literally, does not walk or ever strike out. But they expect Eloy to hit 295 right away. That's incredible, not only just for rookies, but pretty much anywhere. Projections are normally, by definition, conservative, especially for guys who have yet to play in the major leagues. So the fact that the projections think Eloy Jimenez could hit 295 right away is saying something. It also thinks he would hit 28 home runs over 600 plate appearances, which is also third amongst potential rookies, behind Evandel Isabel and Peter Alonso, who would hit 30 and 29 respectively. You might remember those guys. They actually tied for the Bauman Home Run Award lead. Last year, Alonso won it on the RBI tiebreaker. Steamer is very high on those guys' power for obvious reasons, but it's also very high on Eloy's power, which is saying something. Kind of expanding that out, the fact that he can combine both right away is unsurprising. That his WRC plus is so high. Again, that's an average of 100. So major league average WRC plus is 100. Takes into effect, park effects, things of that nature. Outside influences, kind of boils everything down to one number. So if average is 100, they expect Jimenez to be a 132 WRC plus hitter right away. That's 32% better than an average major leaguer. Pretty incredible stuff. He would be worth 3.6 WAR over a full season. I think that's a little high in terms of what he would actually be. He's an adequate defender. He's not a great defender. I don't think he's going to get that much extra WAR out of his defense. So maybe that brings that down a little bit. But for somebody whose bat is, we think can be truly special on the south side of Chicago, after last year when he hit 337 between AA and AAA with 22 home runs in 108 games, Steamer thinks that's going to continue. As things look right now for the White Sox roster, his 3.6 WAR is actually the highest projection amongst White Sox position players, which kind of tells you something about the way Chicago is made right now. Obviously, they're in the middle of a rebuild. They've kind of been building for this moment. But at the same time, we can marry that with the rumors that they are involved in the Bryce Harper and Manny Machado markets. One leaked offer came out today that they've offered Manny Machado 7 years. The money was pretty low on that. I would expect if they are going to sign Machado, it's going to have to go much higher than the reported amount. I think it was $175 million. But the fact that Chicago front office thinks now is the time to start looking at major league assets and bringing in generational talents is a sign that they know Jimenez is ready. That's somebody else they can build around. He's going to be cheap for a couple of years. Once he makes the major leagues, going to be making that minor or the major league minimum for a few more years. They can start adding talent to this mix to, Michael Kopech, who will be out this year with Tommy John surgery, but will be major league ready in 2020. Dylan Cease will be major league ready by the second half of this year, I think. Dane Dunning the same way. Zach Collins is coming up as potential catcher. Nick Madrigal can move very quickly as their first-round pick from last year. He's got a potentially special bat if he has little power. So, the tide is kind of turning in Chicago, at least from the White Sox point of view. And Jimenez is a big driver of that. And the fact that Steamer backs up what we think could be a special average bat and a special power bat, to see that play out in the projections was really, really neat. But the whole piece is on AL Central, so we've got stuff on Indians prospects, Royals prospects, Tigers prospects, and Twins prospects in that piece. So if you're fans of those teams, I implore you to check it out. You can scroll past the Eloy stuff at the top, but it stands out so much. He made for such an easy lead on a piece like this. So we've got NL Central coming out next week, and then the West divisions to follow after that.
And strike three this week, we have discussed on the podcast over the last couple of years some gaining momentum behind guys who are trying to go the two-way route, the Brendan McKays of the world, shall we say, who are trying to have their cake and eat it too. No, that's not what that means. But they're trying to be position players and pitchers at the same time. Red Sox prospect Trey Ball is the latest who is going to try to go that route. Our buddy Gerard Gilberto had a story about that on the site as of Monday. We're recording this on Wednesday. And give us the lowdown on Trey Ball's move.
Yeah, this story was really interesting, and I'm really glad Gerard wrote it, just because this is kind of plugged into a theme, like you said, Shohei Ohtani, Brendan McKay, what we're seeing right now in terms of maybe guys will be used as two-way players. I think Matt Davidson is being looked at as a potential two-way player. I think he's recently signed with that in mind as well at the major league level, so maybe this is going to kind of turn into things. He signed with the Rays, and of course we know the Rays, or he's rumored to maybe sign with the Rays. And the Rays are a little bit more forward thinking, or at least willing to think outside the box. So Trey Ball could be kind of fitting into that mold as well. He was the 7th overall pick in the 2013 draft by the Red Sox at a time when the Red Sox then weren't what we know them as now, which is world champions. They had a really low pick that year. We're really coming off a down year. This was a chance to inject some talent into the system. And the pick doesn't look great now because Ball hasn't quite worked out. But at the time, he was the 8th ranked prospect going into that draft. So to take him at number 7, not a huge surprise. Look at who else was maybe available around that point in the draft, and it's not like the Red Sox missed out on some big talent. Looking at some of the bigger picks from that year, maybe Chris Bryant is the one you get really excited about, but he was already taken. So, they take Trey Ball. At the time, he was a potential two-way player. Not necessarily anybody was thinking that he would play two ways, but any team that was going to take him was going to have a decision to make, whether he would be a pitcher or whether he'd be a hitter. The Red Sox moved him to the mound, I think in part because of his projection. He's 6'6", 180 pounds, but he had the chance to show a plus fastball, a plus curve, a decent changeup at the time. It really has not worked out for him in that way. So Gerard wrote this story and asked him, what was it like struggling as a pitcher? And when did the Red Sox kind of come to you and say, let's look at some other things? And he talks about how about halfway through last year, the Red Sox came to him and said, let's just see what it looks like. So he started taking a lot more at-bats, a lot more work in the cage to try to, get some time there, get reacquainted with it. I think one of the quotes that stood out to me was him talking about just getting his eye back. He faced one breaking pitch from Franklin Kilome, and realizing that's not anything I thought I would see this quick. And trying to understand breaking pitches, especially at AA level, which he was trying to do that at, is fascinating. But as a pitcher last year, he put up a 7.58 ERA with 56 strikeouts and 26 walks and 65 1/3 innings. That was his first year as a reliever. And if he wasn't even cracking it as a AA reliever, there was going to be some need to change things up dramatically one way or another. So kudos to the Red Sox for at least opening this up. They don't want to let him go that easily. They invested a lot of money in him. They have invested a lot of time in him at this point. He's been in the system for 6 years. When he was a position player, he showed the potential to have a plus hit tool, a plus power tool. It's going to be a long road before he can show that. He said, it's been a long time since he's taken regular at bats, but maybe he pitches once a week out of the bullpen and then gets a couple starts here and there, DH/outfield to see how things work. He's probably not going to be the last story we see of this. But the fact that more organizations are turning to this as an option and not just saying, all right, you're a failed pitcher, you're going to be a hitter now full time, and deciding to keep both doors open simultaneously is fascinating. So we'll be keeping a close eye on Trey Ball in 2019, where the Red Sox sent him initially, how long they're willing to continue this experiment, how long they're willing to use him in both roles will be really, really interesting. So go on the site, read Gerard's piece to get a little bit more of Trey Ball's thoughts on the matter and what he needs to do to take that next step. And when I potentially head to Red Sox camp for spring training, I'll try to catch up with them and see where he is in that progression as well.
That is 3 strikes on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. We have one foul ball to get to, and it is a thing that has been building over the last several weeks. Every week, if you check out the site, MILB.com, on Sunday night or Monday morning, you'll see a Winter League roundup that we've done of top 100 prospects in action, mostly in Latin American leagues. There's, of course, a Winter League going on in Australia right now, but there are no top 100 prospects in that league. So in the Venezuelan Winter League, Dominican Winter League, Puerto Rican Winter League, the Mexican Pacific Winter League. Playoffs have started, I believe, in all 4 of those now, and there is a team chasing a title in the Dominican Republic in Estrellas Orientales who have not won a Dominican Winter League championship since 1968. They have finished runners-up in that league 12 times since then. They haven't won a title. They've kind of become the pre-2016 Chicago Cubs of that league, the lovable losers. They never win a championship. Well, they are right now being spearheaded by baseball's number 2 overall prospect, Fernando Tatis Jr., who has been a force in the Dominican Winter League playoffs. 17 games in the Dominican Winter League postseason so far. They have a weird format where they play, among the 4 teams that qualify, they play round-robin series between all 4, and then the best records of those move on to play in the championship series. So it's not direct matchups with elimination series, but Estrellas are on to the championship series. Fernando Tatis Jr. through 17 games has batted .254, but a .365 on base percentage, a .476 slugging percentage. That's an .841 OPS. 3 of his team's 7 home runs in the postseason. He's got 10 RBIs for his team in the postseason. Nobody else on his team has more than 8. He has scored 13 runs. Nobody on his team has scored more than 9. He has 16 hits. Nobody else has more than 14. He has been a force. And it's pretty cool. You can follow the Dominican Winter League playoffs, of course, at MLB.com. We've got a Winter Leagues page on the MLB.com side, in which you can follow game day and box scores and all that kind of stuff. I believe you can find streaming options for the Dominican Winter League playoffs as well, but they're moving on to the championship series. It will start on the 18th of January, and Estrellas Orientales will be taking on Toros del Este, the Eastern Bulls. They call the Eastern Stars is what they call Fernando Tatis Jr.'s team, and they were actually in large part a subject of a book by the same name, The Eastern Stars, by Mark Kurlansky, which was all about how San Pedro de Macorís, the town in the Dominican Republic known as the cradle of shortstops, what it is about that town that produces so much major league talent. And they talk a lot about this franchise. And I've had a weird thing ever since I read that book, which was probably 5 years ago, of every year following the Dominican League playoffs to see how Estrellas does, to see if they're ever going to break this title drought. And they're over 50 years now and on the verge of maybe doing it this year.
Yeah, and there's 2 things I just want to add to that story real fast. His manager is his father, which is fascinating. Fernando Tatis Sr., or as we all knew him, Fernando Tatis, which is really, really cool. Actually, 2 other things I want to add beyond that. The Padres are allowing him to keep going, which is interesting because at the winter meetings, Andy Green, people asked, how long are you going to let your best prospect and one of the best prospects in the game keep playing and potentially opening himself to injury? And they said they didn't really see it that way, that they'll make a call if they have to, but they seemed okay with the way things are going, and it's really nice to see, especially with that playoff drought or that title drought, excuse me, letting him do that for his hometown team is really, really cool. And hopefully he carries that to the spring. I know he got off to a slow start last year, so maybe if he's doing so hot at the end of the Dominican League season, he can carry that into Arizona and potentially into AAA next year. But one other thing I want to add, if you have not seen his bat flip, his home run first, and then the bat flip, it was from January 11th.
It was a walk-off homer. He knocked, I think it was against Toros also, but it was bottom of the ninth to win a game. It was a 3-3 tie. There were a couple of runners on base, and he hits a walk-off homer and then flips the bat to the moon.
Yeah,
incredible.
It was against Licey. Is that the team?
Oh yeah, Tigres.
Yeah. Yes, Tigres. 2 runners on, 0-2 count, which is fascinating. A lot of people said, I want to see the exit velo on this because it was a bullet. It got out of the stadium real quick. And then he stood and watched it and just threw the bat in the air. Amazing. The entire crowd's going nuts. The entire team's going nuts. One thing that's happened this offseason is a lot of people saying, I miss baseball. I miss baseball. Trust me, I miss baseball as well. Can't wait for spring training to come back and for us to all be talking about on the field stuff. Here's an example of baseball still existing in the winter and the pure joy that an entire stadium, an entire group of people, the entire internet for that one night could get out of it. This stuff is still going on. It's really, really cool to watch these games all around the Caribbean and to see it tied with a guy that we're going to be able to talk a lot about in 2019. Only makes it more exciting from my point of view. But if you get a chance, watch this video when you have a couple minutes. Right now, the views is 299,000 just on Twitter alone. It's probably going to get up more on YouTube and stuff like that. Fernando Tatis, fantastic talent, fantastic personality. Really cool to see him doing so well and confirming what we already thought he was as a player.
The Caribbean Series, by the way, for the champions of all these leagues and last year's champion from the Cuban National Series, that will start on February 2nd. It'll go through the 8th. It is scheduled to be held in Barquisimeto, Venezuela, which obviously we've seen a lot of things move out of Venezuela in recent months and years, and the Venezuelan Summer League shut down, all that kind of stuff. But it appears to be on track, I believe, to be held there coming up in a few weeks. And Caribbean Series is a ton of fun. Panama's going to be back in the Caribbean Series this year as a guest in 2019 as well. So it's always one of the coolest events on the baseball calendar, and it's not super easy to find places to watch it sometimes, but hopefully this year there will be easy streaming options for it.
Yeah, you know that Twitter will be all up with the highlights if something like that bat flip happens again.
The tweets. Always good. That'll do it for 3 Strikes on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Coming up, the Cleveland Indians already have one of their stars of the minor league system in Goodyear getting set for the 2019 season, and that is Bobby Bradley, 7th-ranked prospect in the organization, who joins the show next. Headed to the Cactus League. It's not yet Cactus League time, but a guy who's already camped out in his Cactus League surroundings is a 7th-ranked prospect in the Cleveland Indians organization. Bobby Bradley, the first baseman who was added to the 40-man roster back in November and joins us from Goodyear, getting set to go for spring training coming up here in Pitchers and Catchers Report in less than a month, and already out there getting some work in. Bobby, how's January in Arizona going?
It's going great. I mean, actually some nice weather out here versus back home.
Well, tell us about this offseason. You get added to the 40-man back in November. Coming off a season, you finish strong, get a little bit of experience up, 30-plus games with Columbus. You finish and have that AAA now experience under your belt. And going into this year, knowing that the organization loves you so much that you're already on the 40-man, what is 2019 stacking up like for you coming into this year?
I mean, just this offseason's been great. I mean, just with the news of getting added to the 40-man roster was just amazing news right there. It just made me want to work even harder. And, I mean, as for where we are with the team, I mean, spring training will tell. I mean, with the moves they've been making, I feel like it's kind of like they're kind of setting it up for me, but you can never be 100% sure. And, I just got to go into spring and just perform like I know I can.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say you've been following what the Major League team is doing. Obviously, they trade Encarnacion, they pick up Carlos Santana, they also pick up Jake Bauer. So that first base situation, a little bit more open than it was, come the end of the season. How much were you following that, and have you had any discussion with the team about what this means for your role here coming up? Starting next month when you'll be with the team in Major League camp.
I haven't really discussed it too much with them. I just see notifications pop up on the MIL or the MLB app. And that's how I keep up with those moves and things like that. And just as we were going, after I got added to the 40-man and they traded him away, I was like, okay, well, we might be in a pretty good position here. And we're in a great position. And we just have to see how spring training plays out.
So let's go back to that moment when you did find out you were getting added to the 40-man. First off, coming into this season, you knew, or I would assume you knew, that was a potential thing that could happen in November, given your roster situation. You were going to be eligible for the Rule 5 draft this offseason. How much was that on your mind as the season was going on, that this was a potential thing that could come in November?
In the beginning, it was on my mind heavy. Man, I have to perform, to get added, and I put way too much pressure on myself in the beginning, and just had to reset my mind and my focus and just, all right, let's just take this one day at a time. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I had to look at it that way.
So when you do get the call, what did the Indians say to you in that moment? Who did you find out from? And did they just say, hey, this is a thing now? Or did they give you special instructions now that you are a part of the 40-man roster?
So the call when our farm director, James Harris, called me. And he was just pretty much saying, I'm pretty sure you're aware of this is the time that we have to add our guys to the 40-man roster that we want to protect, and you're going to be one of them. And, that was basically the call right there, and he's just congratulating me. And, I was just beyond thankful that I even get that opportunity.
Bobby, last year you start the season with Akron and you get the call to Columbus, and you go up there in August, and like you said, the start of the season, you're thinking about so much stuff, and you're in a circumstance where it's one of those kind of jumping off seasons in your career, and through 97 games with Akron, you're in the middle of that AA swing. Did the AAA promotion come as a surprise to you at all? You're 22 years old. I know you had some time in Akron, obviously, in 2017 and being back there in 2018. When you get that call at that stage of the year, you're kind of after the All-Star break, but you're before maybe that last surge of promotions. Were you caught off guard at all by the timing of that promotion, the fact that you did get a little bit over a month in AAA, which is pretty nice coming into this year?
Yeah, I kept my focus on one day at a time, and I took all promotions out of the window. I was just I'm just going to focus on today, and this is what I need to focus on. And so after, I forgot what game it was. I think it was on the last game in July. I got called into the office after the game, and he said I was going to Columbus. And I was like, oh, okay. All right, now. Because I wasn't thinking about it, and I was like, all right, now I got to shift my focus there. It was great. We were at home in Columbus, so it was only a 2-hour drive down to get settled in. So it wasn't too bad.
That's pretty easy. You finish off the year, you hit 3 homers in 32 games there. You put up a 753 OPS in your first taste of AAA. Pretty good stuff in your final month. And you finished the season in total with 27 homers. And one of the things we've talked with player development people and with power prospects and guys who say power is almost always the last thing to come. And for you, that hasn't really been an issue in your career. You had 27 homers in your first full season in 2015, 29 in 2016, 23 in 2017, 27 last year. What is it about your approach, your style, what you're able to do as a hitter that's enabled you to hit with power pretty much since you got started in pro ball?
I just look at it as that's just a God-given talent. Along with fixing some things with approach and stuff, not trying to hit home runs every time. but just more so line drives in the gap. And when you do miss it a little bit, that's when those home runs come. I mean, that's kind of hard to explain. But yeah, just that approach basis, I guess is how I would say it.
And as somebody who is kind of a power first prospect, that's what stands out obviously on your scouting report, your stat sheet. No matter what, it's always going to be power for you. With the way the game is trending right now, it's fascinating at the major league level because whether it's the balls, whether it's things that are being taught up there, there seems to be a real power jump when it comes to the major leagues, from AAA to the majors. How keenly are you following that, and how does that affect what you think you could do as a power hitter when you do reach the major leagues?
I haven't really been following it at all. I mean, I've heard some talk of it's the baseball, how it's spun tighter, some things like that. But I haven't really been following it too much, not at all. And then, I mean, I would love that power jump when I get up there, though.
I think everybody would love to see themselves add 10, 15 home runs once they make the major leagues when it really counts.
Right.
But speaking of your approach, one thing that kind of stands out as well in terms of how you fit the modern game is, especially earlier in your career, you were striking out a ton. It seemed like that regressed a little bit in 2017 and then moved a little back up in 2018. Is there any big emphasis for you on making more contact to make that next jump? Or is it so tied with your power in terms of selling out and making the most out of that skill that you're not too worried about the strikeouts?
No, I'm definitely looking to cut those down. So when they went down, I was working on my approach in 2017. And but when I got to 2018, I got to make 40, man. I got to perform here. Kind of that putting that pressure on myself got me a little bit away from my approach. It's like, all right, I have to keep my homers up. I have to keep my RBIs up, things like that. And just trying to do way too much for whatever the situation was kind of brought those back up. But I mean, now this year, it's like wherever I start, I know I'm in a good spot, and I'm just going to go back to that approach and just line drives up the middle.
Yeah, and mechanically, when you are looking to make more contact, what are you doing differently? Is it just a thought process thing, or what are you working on to make sure that you are making solid contact up the middle, as you say?
It's just strictly all in the mind, just completely mental. If I just go up there and take a deep breath and tell myself, no matter where this is, I'm going to hit it up the middle, that mechanically allows me to stay behind the ball and stay through the ball.
Bobby, tell us about the defensive side of your game. I know the time you got in the Arizona Fall League, that was one thing that people talked about there was it seemed like you made big strides defensively when you were down in the AFL, and that's never really been a big concern as a very capable defender, but that's something that it seems like everybody always has something that they're working on defensively, which I don't think is quite as sexy of a topic for people to always ask players about. But where you are now as a defender at first base compared to where you were in your first or second pro season, what do you think you've developed most? How do you categorize yourself now as a defender?
Now I would say I'm a pretty average defender. I mean, when I first got drafted playing first base, I was only in my second year ever playing first base. I caught my whole life all the way up until then. And so I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. But over the years, working with our fielding coordinators, Johnny Mack and Travis Fryman, just getting different drills to work on, things like that, I just slowly saw improvements. And then in 17, the off season of 17, I just sold out all off season, didn't really do too much hitting or anything, but it was strictly defense. I need to get my hands better. I need to get my feet working. I need to be able to move around this bag if I want to go up.
For, if there are kids, young first basemen who are listening to this, what is the thing that you have done that you feel like has helped you most? Is it just a case of reps? I mean, are you out taking a million ground balls and working on your footwork just in the same sort of constant process? Or are there things that you do that maybe people don't think about actively as, oh, yeah, that could help me out too defensively?
Yeah, I do a wall ball routine almost every day. Just before I do anything to get my hands working, to make sure my hands are working how I want I get a couple baseballs and I just go through a wall ball routine. And then it's not that I take a lot of reps. I probably take ground balls for 15 minutes, but I take every single one of them with intent. I mean, that's just how you have to do it. Like, you can go take 1,000,000 and not have an intent and get worse, but you can take 20, 25 with intent and be just as good.
All right, Bobby, we've talked so much about you being close to the major league roster now, whether it be AAA or your roster status. One of the reasons why we wanted to bring you on this week was earlier this month, you got to participate in the rookie career development program. The Indians got to send you there. Tons of other top prospects get to go to that every year. This year was in Miami. What was that program like, and what was your biggest takeaway from your time, getting prepped for the major leagues and rubbing elbows with so many guys either you've seen across the diamond or read about, heard about from before?
Hey, I mean, that was an awesome program. I mean, there's a lot more that goes on in this that you would not realize this, as in just playing every day and not really keeping up with it, but like learning about what everything the Players Association does for the players and like all the benefits you get. I mean, just a great group of guys that you can just call anytime if you had any questions. It's just like to know you have those resources for anything is just amazing.
So what was the most surprising thing for you going in there? What's something you took away from it, whether it's that Players Association, phone list, like you say, or something else? What was your biggest takeaway that's now going to change how you approach potentially making the majors?
I mean, just that you're not alone. Like, if you're ever going through something, there's always somebody you can call. I mean, like, even if it's like one of the other players that were there that we made a connection with, but just like somebody's been through your situation, and I mean, they're only a phone call away to kind of help you get through it, and you're not really going through it alone.
And speaking of not being there alone, as I said, there were so many other top prospects there. Who was somebody either you got to meet for the first time or somebody you were really looking forward to hanging with, not from the Indians necessarily, that you got to see from your time there at the program?
I got to hang out with one of my good friends, Nick Gordon. I got to see him and hang out there with him a little bit, which was actually really cool.
How did you guys get to know each other?
We played against each other growing up. I was on Marucci, I think he was on like FDB, like Chandler or something. Like at all the perfect game tournaments and things like that, and just got to know him through that.
How much do you guys keep in touch during the season? Because you guys are both AL Central guys now. There's a chance you'll be seeing each other maybe even this year now that you're both 40-man guys.
Right. We haven't really kept up too much during the season. Like, he does his thing, I kind of did mine. We kind of like rekindled that connection when we got to when I got to AAA, and we ended up playing against him. And that's kind of where we got back on track. Like, and hey, man, hadn't seen you in a while.
All right. Well, Bobby, we'll end with you on this one. One of my favorite things I always like to ask people, especially who have elite tools like you do in the power department, is when you knew you were really good at that skill. So at what point was it, whether it's little league ball, travel ball, even maybe the minor leagues, I don't know, when you knew that your power could get you into pro ball and on the doorstep of the major leagues? How far back did you know your power was that good?
I would probably say like sophomore year of high school. Let's say that's when I would be like, okay, I got a shot at this.
What was there a specific moment? Was there like a home run you hit into the trees or something like that? I mean, what happened in sophomore year to make you think that?
I just like, because we never really kept up with stats in high school, but then like we'd look online like at the end of the year and they'd accumulate, and I had hit like, I want to say like 11 home runs or something, and was just like leading like the whole like south of the state. I was like, okay, that's pretty good. Like I might can keep going with this.
That is pretty awesome. Bobby Bradley's the 7th-ranked prospect in Cleveland system. You can follow him on Twitter. He's at B_Bradley_44. And Bobby, enjoy the rest of the time getting set for the start of Cactus League stuff, and we appreciate the time, man. We'll be watching this year.
Awesome. Thank you for the invite.
Benjamin Hill joins us this week for the first edition of toward the end of last season, or the end of last calendar year. We have the Ben's Best Of columns, which ran through some of Ben's favorite things in the minor leagues. And this is kind of a similar thing, but different. Hello, Ben. Your first story that we're going to discuss this week. Hello.
Hello, Tyler, and hello, Sam Dykstra, sitting to my left in conference room 5V.
5V, yes.
Today.
As Ben said earlier when I told him we were in 5V, he said V as in voy, which is not even a word, but the message got across because he did find me without trouble this week, so that's good.
V as in voy.
Yeah.
That's
the start of Voyage. I mean, come on.
Obviously.
Yeah. Very easy.
Yeah.
Toward the end of last year, as we got into the offseason, as I mentioned, Ben ran through favorite ballpark characters and stadium views and all that kind of stuff. And this is kind of a cool column that you got coming out this week, which is a similar rundown of some things in the minor leagues that stand out as unique, but this is a unique premise in itself. Minor league stalwarts is kind of how you're going with it. Tell us about what that's how how Sam described it in the email. Tell us about what we were talking about before we started recording. There's actually a lot of like wrinkles in this that kind of make it difficult to categorize some of these things, but tell us about this column.
Yeah, this is going to be a story for the nerds, as I was saying, and of course I am one of them. It's similar to the best of stories I did, and then it's a level by level story. But beyond that, it's not my opinion. This is just the facts. But what this is I was just thinking about how in the off season, especially in the fall, all the news is about change, and minor league baseball is a landscape of change, and we talk about change pretty much every week on this podcast, and for good reason. The affiliation shuffle, all the new rebrandings, new logos, 3 new stadiums in 2019, as many as 4 in 2020. So that's where our minds are. That's where the news is. And I was thinking to myself, okay, but what teams have had the least change? And you can go down a huge rabbit hole with this question. And I've done, stories in the past about, longest running team names or longest running affiliations. I kind of decided to combine it all into one story, minor league stalwarts, a level by level look at the teams at each level that have gone the longest without changing their name, affiliation, or stadium. So that is the premise. We keep talking about change. What are the teams that have kept everything the same for the longest? And I've gone down some internet rabbit holes trying to suss all this out. But I do it for you. I do it for love, and I do it for my love of anyone who might read it, as well as the necessity of writing a feature at least one a week. And sometimes this time of year you don't have stories jumping out at you necessarily, but that is changing, and I've got a lot of good ideas coming down the pike. Don't fret. But minor league stalwarts.
Yeah, let's start at the top then, and by the top, I kind of actually mean the bottom. You said you're going level by level for this, but out of all the minor league teams you looked into, what is the minors' biggest stalwart? Who has been around the longest without, like you said, a new stadium, a new team name, a new major league affiliate? A lot of that kind of swindles things down because you're taking out expansion teams in the 90s. Even some leagues got changed. What was the one team that's been around the longest without any change?
Well, when I started writing this story, and I even started writing a write-up of this team in the story before I thought it was going to be the Pawtucket Red Sox. At McCoy Stadium since 1973, AAA International League affiliate of the Boston Red Sox since 1973. But them doing further research, they changed their name to the Rhode Island Red Sox for one season in 1976. So you have to start with 1977 to where everything becomes completely consistent with them. Therefore,
did you uncover a reason as to why just a one-season name change there?
I did not, and I don't know why they did that at that time.
That's interesting.
Any Pawtucket front office members, Pawtucket historians, Rhode Island historians, please let us know why the team spent one season in 1976 as the Rhode Island Red Sox. But that forced me to switch the Pawtucket from 73 to 77 based on that name change. So the number one minor league stalwart in all minor league baseball, same ballpark, name, and affiliation for the longest uninterrupted period of time, is the Elizabethton Twins, 1974.
Appy League.
And right behind them, 1975, the Johnson City Cardinals. So you got the two biggest in the Appy League there. For sure. And I've come upon a lot of random facts in writing the story. I'll try to incorporate as many as I can, sort of tweet out other things. You know how it is when you research these kind of stories. You find incidental things all over the place, like San Jose for Class A Advanced. San Jose Giants playing at Municipal Stadium since 1988. The team that preceded the San Jose Giants in San Jose were the San Jose Bees. And they were part of that phenomenon that doesn't exist anymore of an independent team playing in an otherwise affiliated league. So the San Jose Bees were an independent team, but they played in the California League. And for 1 year, they served as a refuge for like 5 or 6 different former Major League players who had essentially been blacklisted from Major League Baseball for excessive drug and alcohol use. So you had this independent team in the California League with Steve Howe and company playing there independently. And
how did they do? Did they sweep things, or
I don't know. I was actually just doing that before we went up to look at to record the podcast. I found a Sports Illustrated article about the San Jose Bees, which in internet fashion called them the weirdest team ever. And I don't know if that, but I need to look more into it. But can you imagine that happening in the year 2019? The California League having all affiliated teams and then one that just made up of a bunch of veteran guys who got in trouble elsewhere.
I mean, if Bryce Harper and Manny Machado don't find a team, I don't think that's a bad idea to see what they could do in the Cal League for a year.
Yeah. And that's the same premise of the, the Battered Bastards of Baseball, the Netflix documentary was in the Northwest League, a team in Portland made up an independent team in an otherwise affiliated league. I find these things fascinating. This is neither here nor there with the minor league stalwarts idea, but it's just to say that anytime you do a story like this, you open up a whole can of worms. I think that people who enjoy baseball history will like this. I'm trying to get all the facts right. I'm sure I will hear from anyone if I get anything wrong or anything needs to be tweaked. I'm sure a lot of people, because this is the internet, won't take the time to understand the premise and then make completely irrelevant commentary. But that's okay. That's okay. And I got Sam Dykstra here sitting next to me, still obsessed with the mystery of the Rhode Island Red Sox.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out why they were the Rhode Island Red Sox.
It's wicked weird, Sam.
Well, they went bankrupt after being called the Rhode Island Red Sox. So there's one reason why they did not continue that name. And then Ben Mondor, who owned the team for a very long time, bought them the next year and returned the name to Pawtucket. So we know why it went back to Pawtucket. The only thing I can think of is around that same time, there was kind of a movement in New England, with the Boston Patriots becoming the New England Patriots. Kind of expanding things out a little bit. For example, for 1 year, the New England Patriots were known as the Bay State Patriots. And the reason why they weren't called that was because after 1 year, everybody realized that they became the BS Patriots, and that was not great. So maybe this was part of that movement and trying to incorporate entire states and the entire region instead of sticking to one place. But obviously didn't last long in either case.
Yeah, but it's a fun story. So many different things. Like in Double-A, the Bowie Bay Sox started in 1994. Same stadium, team name affiliation. It would have been 1993, but the stadium, there was a delay in construction, so they spent the 93 season at Memorial Stadium, a former Major League stadium in Baltimore.
No way.
Because the Orioles had just moved to Camden Yards. So the 93 season, you have a Double-A team playing in a Major League facility while they're waiting for their facility to be built. So we could go on and on. We won't, but man.
Your story will.
To the extent, I'll try to keep it tight. Keep it tight for the internet attention spans. But, of course, I'm happy to talk further on social media, particularly Twitter. Send me an email. Of course, I like having fun with these stories. And I'd like to think that you, whoever you may be, might enjoy them as well. So here's to hope.
All right, Ben.
Good slogan.
Yeah, it's my new 2019 slogan. Here's to hope.
Well, speaking of things that are happening in 2019, you always do this story on the blog of, looking at promos that are going to come out. Some have started to kind of get out there a little bit, but you always look back at what are the anniversaries this year in pop culture. So 2019, we're looking at 50 years ago. It was 1969, obviously Woodstock, which you include in here. Looking at 40th or 25th anniversary, stuff like that. What stood out to you as potential promos, at least in terms of, golden, silver anniversaries, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, when we look at promo schedules and they're just beginning to be released. At the time I wrote this blog post, I had seen one, Potomac Nationals, and I think this has happened in years past. The Potomac Nationals always release their promo schedule early, and then I'm like, oh man, I better write that anniversary post before other teams release. But Daytona and Buffalo have since released their schedules. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot, and we'll talk about it in future episodes. So, Potomac already had a few on their calendar that made me think, well, it's going to be happening. A Woodstock promotion, a Indiana Jones promotion. You could do the 30th of Last Crusade. They did 35th of Temple of Doom. I can only assume there has to be some getting chased by a boulder between inning contest kind of thing. So there's a lot that we're going to see this year repeated all over the country. I can imagine in some cases I was guessing, like we saw Sgt. Pepper's jersey in 2017 for the 50th anniversary of Sgt. Pepper's. 69 is Abbey Road. So I think it's potential we could see some Beatles promos, but this time based around Abbey Road. Moving more recently, 1994. We have, Sam's favorite movie of all time, I believe.
It's definitely in the top 3.
Yeah.
I'm constantly shifting around.
I'm, of course, talking about Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Yes. The movie I recall quite fondly from being 4 years old.
Well, Ace Ventura is having a 25th anniversary. I think we'll see that celebrated. Of course, Sam's favorite movie, I was referring to Forrest Gump.
Yes.
And I think it's we already saw teams do Forrest Gump through the years. I know you sport your Montgomery the Greenbow Biscuits hat from last year, but I think we'll see more Forrest Gump. Pulp Fiction, not really family friendly, but I could see maybe a Thirsty Thursday time with that, or
a dance contest.
I can see elements of it working. Obviously, other elements not working whatsoever.
Royale with cheeses.
Yeah,
there are things you could do.
Anything about Fresno. I mean, Coming to America is not necessarily as violent or risque in the language as Pulp Fiction, but I think Fresno Grizzlies last year with Coming to America showed you can take an R-rated movie and really have fun with it at the ballpark. Star Wars, of course, there's going to be Star Wars promotions, but what is the 20th anniversary 2019?
Oh, man.
Phantom Menace.
Which is fine, I guess.
20 years, holy cow.
Yeah, but woof. It's amazing that was 20 years ago, and B, if that's the movie we're going to be celebrating on Star Wars nights this year.
My guess is a lot of teams, because I do Star Wars night every year, might not feel the need to tie it into Phantom Menace. In my blog post, I mentioned that the Altoona Curve are so far the only team to wear Jar Jar Binks jerseys, so I don't know if they'll bring those back for the 20th anniversary.
Somebody's going to, if it's not going to be them bringing it back.
So we might see some Jar Jar.
If you want to do pod racing contests, totally in on that, or something like Tyler, you might remember this, the pod racing video game for N64.
Yeah, actually, I do kind of remember that now.
Yeah, and how much more popular I feel like that was than the movie. Everybody loves that video
itself.
Game. Not everybody loves
pod racing was cool.
Yeah, so there was that thing in Kansas City where they were playing Mario Kart on the big board.
Yeah.
There's an idea, like having an in-between innings contest where you play pod racing on the big board in your stadium. I think that would be pretty neat. Celebrate Phantom Menace that way. Anyways, go on.
Yeah. So
I also, just to jump in, I feel like there's not generally, and there's been like kind of a larger discussion of this on a societal level lately, but I feel like we see all these promos for like TV shows, movies, albums, random celebrity stuff. There's very rarely video game promotions. Have you noticed that? Like, there's not often times like here's a Super Mario Brothers night or here's a Sonic the Hedgehog night. I don't know why that is, especially because like we're a video game generation that grew up. It kind of surprises me.
That's a good point. I think we've seen some, definitely a fair amount of video game promotions through the years, but they're often more like not anniversary themed and maybe less a certain game. Yeah. And more just kind of like salute to like kind of a throwback night 80s, and it's like 80s video games. I mean, we did see some Fortnite nights last year, just capitalizing on a current pop culture phenomenon.
Yeah, right.
But you're right. Like, we didn't see like a 30th anniversary of Super Mario promotion or whatever the case may be. So I think that, I don't know why that is. I think that's something to consider. It's a category I haven't even, researched when doing these kind of blog posts. I just stay mostly with movies and TV and music. Along that line, 89, 30th year for Seinfeld, Simpsons, Baywatch, Saved by the Bell. These are all promo, pretty friendly entities for minor league promotions. So I think we'll see a lot of that. Weekend at Bernie's turns 30. I want to see something with Weekend at Bernie's. Or at least have like Bernie have to be like on someone's team and between inning contests, and you have to like carry around this dead guy throughout the ballpark or something. Family friendly to hang out with a corpse all evening.
Or you're not allowed to move for an inning, something like that. You pick a random fan, they're not allowed to move And if that's true, they get free tickets to a future game, something like that.
Yeah, Bernie cams.
Bernie cams. There it is. That's the idea.
That's pretty good. This definitely, every year when we have this discussion, it makes me realize how long ago certain things happened that make me feel super old. But yeah, did not count on it being the first prequel, the Jar Jar Binks one of Star Wars, to be 20 years old to make me think, what? How did that happen?
I mean, for me, it's more that Hey Arnold is 25 years.
Yeah, that too. Hey Arnold debuting in 1994. I don't think I would have guessed that at all.
No, that's rough.
Goodness gracious.
That's just the way it goes. With each passing moment, we're one step closer to death, and we need to celebrate the things that occurred previously in our lives to make us feel alive as we once were.
Here's to hope.
Jesus.
As the slogan earlier in this segment went. Benjamin Hill's on Twitter. He said Ben's Biz. The blog is bensbiz.mlblogs.com. What else is coming up?
Those are the main things right now. I've got a few, I'm kind of not reviving the blog, but I took a little hiatus, not necessarily prioritizing it as much, but I've got some blog posts coming up I think we can talk about next week. Some decent story ideas too as we hit promo release season, and just talking about a lot of the promos that are going to be released, because we're actually going to be seeing promo releases coming fast and furious in the coming weeks and months. So there's a lot going on. And I have a question real quick, because I was listening to last week's podcast yesterday night, and you guys were talking about Steamer. And I just wanted to know if you ever tied in Steamer with the Altoona mascot, Steamer.
No, but oddly enough, when you said we were talking about Steamer, the first thought that went into my head was, were we talking about the Altoona mascot last week?
Right. So I'm going to make a request in future episodes when you're talking about Steamer, if you can right before that segment to play the Altoona Curve song, Here Comes Steamer.
Oh, jeez.
Any Steamer projections from
now
on?
And play Here Comes Steamer. Yeah,
okay.
That's my if anyone else tweet at me at Ben's Biz, just hashtag Here Comes Steamer, and we can see if enough people want this. It's just something I think you guys had a great discussion. I enjoyed listening to it, but just a little tweak I thought of.
Yeah, it's more going to affect Tyler as the producer of this podcast and the person who had to live with that theme song
and lived with Steamer
himself.
Yeah. As long as we don't have to do the Everybody Loves Curve baseball song, that's a win for me. Among the canon of minor league baseball music, and it's a front runner. Benjamin Hill, like I said, Ben's Biz on Twitter and the blog bensbiz.mlblogs.com, and send us all of your future requests for minor league mascot theme songs for us to include in random segments. We'll see what we can do. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, guys. You're always so amenable.
Finishing up the 192nd episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. Thanks to Bobby Bradley again for joining us a little bit earlier from Goodyear. Bobby will get set to go for spring training in about 6 weeks, and we will be doing the same in about 7 or 8, something like that. And we're about done. That's all. I got nothing.
Yeah, we don't have a player to call in now and save us from a bad exit, huh?
That's true. You got a good enough intro, the exit's not going to be any better.
No, that's.
Oh, man. And on that note, he's Sam Dykstra. I'm Tyler Mon. We'll talk to you next week.